Emma, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to join us today. So, you may have been here before and seen a couple of our other webinars, but today we have three guests instead. So, I'd like to just run through some introductions first. So, we have with us today, we have Jess, who is an esports host. Who has done lots of different esports events themselves. Nekkra, who I have had the pleasure of working with before on the Cat Collective and Women in Games tournament that we held here before, who is a caster and host in the esports scene. And we also have Seltzer as well, who is a host and interviewer. I'm just going to start off by going to each person and letting themselves do a little bit of introduction. So Jess, if we start with you.
Yes, thank you so much, Emma. You basically hit the nail on the head. I am an esports event host. I have worked on a variety of different titles. Most of my recent work has been, currently I host a segment for GameStop TV. So if you're in a GameStop, you stand there for long enough, you'll hopefully see one of my videos come up. But previously, I was also hosting a show for the Rainbow Six North American League, and I've hosted a lot of different Call of Duty related events for a couple years. I was the official sideline reporter for the Call of Duty World League, and then when it got franchised and rebranded to the CDL Call of Duty League, I came on board doing many of the Challengers series, which Challengers is the amateur COD scene officially supported by Activision Blizzard. So done kind of a lot of different events here and there. And then when I'm not hosting events, I also stream on Twitch.
Fantastic. And if we head over to Nekkra next.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I am a esports caster and host, and I cover a range of different titles. My main titles that I cast are Pokemon, Overwatch, and Hearthstone. Don't know if you could get that from the background that I'm a huge Pokemon fan, so it's really awesome to be involved in the scene over there. And then I also host a number of different titles. It's basically, I love video games, and one of the coolest things about loving video games is being able to talk about them. And I think that's one of the greatest things about being a host is that you get a chance to share and show off all of the amazing people that are involved in the scene. So I love being involved in lots of different titles.
Fantastic. And finally, if we hear from Seltzer as well, just a little introduction.
Hey, everybody. First of all, I'm really lucky to be on this panel with two of my sisters in my agency, which is Character Select. They actually just won an award for esports supporting agency, but I've been working with them for over a decade now. I started out thinking I was going to be a professional gamer, finding out I wasn't very good at games, but I really love to tell the story of gamers and talk about the effort that goes into succeeding in the esports industry. And over the last 10 years, the esports industry has changed so much. We got broadcasting capabilities through companies like Twitch, and so it's been really interesting going from like a camera on the floor of like a MLG event or something in like a hotel ballroom to being in these huge stadiums where you're on center stage at Staples Center and people are watching from all around the world. So seeing the evolution of esports has been a big part of it for me. And of course, all the wonderful people I meet along the way, like Nekkra and Jess. Nekkra, I love my Pokemon Switch dock cover.
It looks so good.
You all have such beautiful setups, and I'm here just nervously trying to hide my unmade bed, being like, I am a professional, I promise.
I had to quickly make the bed. I'm with you.
This isn't my day job, I'm sorry.
That's why I just have like a pop-up with a sheet over it, because then you can't tell what's behind there.
What?
Could be anything.
Yeah, I need to fix
secrets.
something like this because this is my office, so I could just do it up. But yeah, my day is spent writing content at the moment. So next time I'll try and sort of background. But if we just move on to some the questions first of all. So what is it that made you choose the gaming industry to begin with? Because obviously it is a hard one to get into. And wasn't necessarily one that was founded that long ago. It's changing constantly and evolving as we grow. So what is it about the gaming industry when you first went into it that pulled you into it? If we start off with Nekkra this time.
Sure. Oh, can remember such a succinct moment in my life where I realized I wanted to go into games. And it actually has a lot to do with BlizzCon in 2018, which was my very first esports gaming event. I just decided I love Blizzard games. I have to go. I had a lot of good reasons for being there, just to enjoy what Blizzard has to offer. And I remember having a conversation with Rachel. I remember having a conversation with Zoe and Golden Boy and so many other people in the industry. And it inspired me to just go for it. At first, I was incredibly scared. I was incredibly nervous. Being a woman in a much more, male dominated scene, you always get those jitters, like, am I gonna belong? But after hearing that, like, I should just go for it and that I should have that confidence and that there are all these people that are already supporting me and I hadn't done anything yet, that made me so much more comfortable and so much more willing to get into the industry. And I can't thank the people that I had those conversations with enough, like Rachel. Thank you so much for encouraging me to come in this direction.
Hope I can work that magic on everybody else watching. Join the industry.
Just create a big coven almost of all of the women in the industry. Be like, join us.
Join
We put our shoes in a circle and dance around them.
So what was it that drew you to the industry, Rachel?
I actually, so I got started when I was still in high school. I came from like the anime convention, like trading card game tournament, like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon cards and card shops, kind of like trying to find any way to meet other people that loved the stuff I loved and to like build a community around it. And that was really tough before the internet sort of became what it is, before social media. So I would go to these events that were like in a hotel ballroom or like, in the Javits Center over the course of a weekend. And that was my first taste of esports, these tiny little like walk-up booths where you would like play a competitive game and there would be like one person on a microphone just being like, get in here, win a headset, it's gonna be awesome. So that's like what I used to do in esports. I showed up, I would play, and then I joined PMS Clan way back then, which was an all-female gaming clan. And they would also do a lot of like booth work and tournament work. So I would go to these tournaments and get this experience of like being around esports. And I was competing at the time in Team Fortress 2 and like later in Battlefield and stuff like that. I wasn't good, but I was competing. And it was such a wonderful community. I was like, I love this. I love that I can go here. I have so many friends from around the world that are just all like so different from me, but we all come together on this thing that we loved. And esports over the last 10 years, obviously, we're having this panel right now, it has exploded. It is a place that I think so many different demographics, so many different people feel comfortable coming in and exploring what there is to, making contributions to the scene or even competing themselves and becoming professional gamers. So I really see esports as this incredible place where you have this what should be a very even playing field for so many people to come together. And so what I try and do now as a host and interviewer is I stand in front of a lot of these tournaments and I explain what's going on to the audience at home. And I try to send the message that, whatever, whoever you are, whatever, you think you can contribute to the scene, I hope you come. I hope you try and do it here. And I hope everyone is welcoming and supportive. And so I put a lot of effort into also, encouraging the greater esports scene to be a better place.
For sure. I mean, I think without that encouragement, I wouldn't have, the balls basically to stand up and try and interview people who interview on a daily basis as a job, as someone who doesn't do this very often at all. So
it's a conversation. You're doing great.
And finally, Jess as well. So what was it that drew you into gaming, into esports, into becoming a host, basically?
Yeah, so I have a pretty similar story as Rachel. I would say, I grew up playing video games. In high school, I was really into anime. College, I went to as many anime conventions and gaming events and stuff as I could. I'm here from Columbus, Ohio, so there was always an MLG Columbus event. So it was like there was always something to do with gaming here. So I always knew I wanted to work in gaming when I grew up. I knew I was one of those people that wanted to live to work instead of working to live. And from kind of my early days as well, I also sort of sought out the other women, because that's one of the main ways I've noticed the industry changing over the last like decade that I've been involved. Because like Rachel, like I'm an OG. I was also in PMS Clan back in the day. She and I were both involved in Frag Dolls stuff. Like she was a Frag Doll, I was a Frag Doll cadet, which was their kind of temporary like internship position sort of thing. So I've always sought out the other women that I have a lot in common with, and the other women that are in gaming. And it's amazing to see that now, like, you don't even have to try that hard to find other women. Like it's so there's the market, the esports industry is just saturated with women. And of course we still have our issues as far as some of the kind of barriers to entry and some of the maybe double standards and gaps that there kind of exist between, I think, the genders, between, you know, men and women within gaming. But at the same time, we've come leaps and bounds from how things were 10 years ago. And like 10 years ago, when I was first trying to do all this stuff, you know, I sought out those women because I was really trying to find role models. Because I think the saying is you have to see it to be able to do it, or something like that. So it was really important for me to see other women doing what I now do. And like, if I hadn't looked up to some of those women, I wouldn't be where I am now. So I've always wanted to like kind of foster that in the next generation, and like do everything I can to hopefully help the next generation of young women who want to work in gaming, who have faced a lot of the adversity that, you know, myself and my peers have faced, and kind of help them so they can get through it and, you know, continue making the next generation better and better.
For sure. I mean, and I think that sort of touches on what I wanted our next topic to be, of role models in the industry, because I think that's how a lot of people, a lot of women especially, get into the industry. Because although I've been a gamer for, you know, since I was about 4 years old, because it was my mother who taught me gaming. So it was really weird to me that it was actually a male dominated industry. When I grew up, you know, got my first gaming PC, got onto the internet and found out it was all men, I was really confused and, you know, somewhat disheartened at this fact. So now, but then, you know, once I started to see female role models within the scene, that's when I started to be like, okay, I need to make my own moves within it as well. But what are the importance of role models to you? On what do they mean within the gaming industry? If we start with Rachel this time.
Sure. I was super lucky to have incredible role models in this industry in the form of Amy Brady and Amber Dalton, who were the twin sisters who founded PMS Clan back in the day. And it was an event, VG Expo in Philadelphia. I had gone with my boyfriend and we were playing the walk-up tournaments. And I was feeling very good about myself because I had like a bag of video cards and headsets and a nice little monitor over here. And I was coming for a college class. I wanted to interview one of the founders of PMS Clan. And I walk up and I was like, Amy, Amber, I scheduled this time. I'd love to interview you. And they're like, girl, did you win all that? Just join our clan. What are you doing? So I was like, what? I too can play games. Like I never thought of myself as someone like a cat who needs a special invitation to do anything. Like, you know, like I would have thought like, I don't know. I didn't even think of joining PMS Clan until they invited me specifically. And I was like, oh, there is a place for me to do all this. I went on to join them to play TF2 under their title. And I still am part of PMS today, but they were the ones that kind of like took me to events that showed me like, oh no, like you don't have to, you know, think that you're less. You don't have to like stay away from the booths. Get in there, try that out, try on this team. And you know, that made all the difference for me. I know there are people out there that kind of like will just bust down the door. And I hope I've become one of those people, but it was really so helpful early on to have someone else say to me, there's a place for you. You can be included. We would love to have you. And so that's really what I try and, you know, bring into the world, something that I learned from my role models. I mean, we had an amazing team at PMS. They're still out there. Amy and Amber and Delicate and Wedge, all the people that made PMS special and welcoming for me are all four corners of this industry, still doing amazing things, still making wonderful environments. And so I'm just trying to live up to the example they set and kind of welcome people in the same way.
It sounds like a really welcoming community. It's so nice to hear people speak so passionately about female communities and female-led spaces in this industry, just because, you know, although there is quite a few out there, it's very hard to find one maybe that provides everything that you need, but having one that, you know, that is your base obviously has made quite an effect on you. Jess, what do you think about role models within the industry? What do you think is important within female role models?
Yeah, I think Rachel made a lot of really good points. And basically, I would echo every single thing she said. And then just kind of to add on to that, one thing that has really helped me over the years, or that has been, I think, important to me over the years, is when I see women that I look up to, not necessarily succeeding, but when I can see them fail and kind of see what they do and how they like shake themselves off and how they continue on after that, you know, how they deal with adversity, how they deal with the negative, you know, reactions from maybe Twitch chat at events, or even like, you know, sexism and things like that from their own colleagues and their peers and stuff like that. Because it's obviously like, you know, it's very important to see women who are succeeding and doing great and everything's happy, and I'm happy for them. But there is also a negative side of being a woman in gaming and being a woman in esports, and just to be able to see that, to be able to see it happening to women that I look up to, and seeing that it doesn't stop them, like witnessing many accounts of that has really helped me when I've faced those kind of crossroads in my career journey, when I've been like, man, is this all worth it? Like, should I continue? Because I've had many of those moments, and a lot of them largely are honestly related to, I think, my gender and being a woman in this space. And they're all kind of a lot of those experiences were rooted in misogyny. And a lot of times I've been like, man, it would be so much easier if I did something else, went into a different industry. But then having seen other women and other people I look up to going through that and persevere has what's kept me going. So, you know, I kind of try to, you know, I never want to be like a Debbie Downer, and I feel like I'm always so negative sometimes, but I just like I like to share the reality at the same time of, you know, a lot of things, just so that, because I want everyone to get into this industry, but I also want them all to be informed and not be caught off guard by like some of the things that they might face once they get here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's completely fair. I mean, we can celebrate how far we have come as an industry and how much more women are in it now than say when we started. However, you still need to keep an eye on the reality of it, and the reality of it is that it could be better, and we can still make it better, and that's the point of role models. But what do you think, Nekkra, on the subject of role models? And also, guys, do you feel that yourselves are role models at this point in your careers, or?
I have two of the most amazing role models right next to me right now. Rachel and Jess are so wonderful at what they do. And honestly, I wouldn't be in this position right now if I didn't have strong women to look up to that are paving the way for this industry. I still have a very young career. I only started at the end of the tail end of 2018. So I have not been doing this for more than 2 years. And it's amazing to see the progress that I've been able to see within just like the 2 years that I've been doing this, in terms of how welcoming it is, how little I really feel like I have to deal with misogyny and sexism now. And I feel like it has a lot to do with the women that came before me that dealt with this already, that have really been setting the pace and setting the trends of exactly how people should be respected. And so I just want to say a huge thank you to Rachel and Jess for being part of that process, because I don't think that I would be in the same position right now if it hadn't been for them and so many others coming before me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's fantastic to hear you all be so happy with talking about each other and giving each other such glowing recommendations. It's really nice to hear women in the industry, you know, especially big up other women as well. So of course, we're talking about whether, you know, how role models are, but do we think that gender really makes a difference when it comes to breaking into the industry in the first place as well? If we start with Jess for this one to begin with.
I think that's a really good question. And I love talking about this kind of thing, because I think that there isn't necessarily, so one of the things that makes it harder for women to break into the industry, I think kind of goes back to like what I was saying before, just with regards to like negativity, misogyny, and like Twitch chat, for instance. And it's really easy to kind of let that stop you. And I never want to, you know, be like, oh, just toughen up, get a thicker skin, because I really don't think that's the solution. Like, that has been told to me several times throughout my career, like, toughen up. And I'm like, well, I have a thick enough skin. Like, I'm still here. I've been doing this for over a decade, so I think we're all right, but thanks for the advice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's sort of that, like, it's not necessarily that, like, because it's a little bit of a different thing than, you know, going to just a job interview and, oh, they're hiring, this position, and, oh, well, why aren't they hiring any female candidates kind of thing. It's a little bit different working in like gaming and especially being talent in gaming, because it's not really like a formal hiring process. So I think there's a lot of reasons why it can be more difficult for women. I think a lot of it is more like insipid than what we think of when we think of traditional like misogyny. I think it's a lot more layered and nuanced than that. But like for me, again, I think a big one is kind of the it's not even just the fact that women are like overlooked for a lot of these roles. I think it's more the treatment that they receive. And so it's kind of an internal problem, until we fix the industry from the inside out. It's always gonna kind of be like that. Sorry, that was kind of a rambly answer, but that's my thoughts on barriers to women entering gaming.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, I think it is definitely something that we need to keep an eye on, just because sexism goes both ways in a sense, Of course, on Twitch, some people want, they want women to portray their game, to show their game off, and things like this. And that itself is in kind of a weird way sexism if you're choosing that over a male candidate themselves. So it's interesting to keep an eye on how women and men are both treated in this industry, and how sexism goes both ways, I guess.
I actually have two quick more thoughts, if I may, that you kind of sort of that I thought of while you were saying that, because that is really true. I would like to say feminism benefits men. It benefits everyone, regardless of gender identity, for a lot of reasons. And I think in one way in particular, kind of like you were saying, like if they specifically want like a female, because I've been in a position, so I've been in a couple positions, I've been in positions where they specifically want to hire a female or have a female presenter, for one reason. And sometimes it's for a good reason. And sometimes it's, we're going to have a mostly male audience. So we want a female presenter to like look pretty. And I mean, that's damaging to men as well, because that's insulting to them. That's implying that they need to have something pretty to look at, or they're not going to be able to pay attention, that they're not capable of like listening unless they're sexually attracted to the person that's talking. And that's like demeaning, degrading, belittling to men. So that's what I say when I mean like feminism benefits men, it benefits women, it benefits everyone of all gender identities. And then I think that one thing that I've noticed a ton in a lot of the events that I've been hosting lately is that there's been a much greater deal of moderation in the chat, which is so necessary and wonderful, because in the past, it was just anything goes. It was just, oh, too bad, them's the breaks. And in a lot of events that I've been hosting recently, there's a greater deal of, okay, chat isn't behaving, so we're going to go into slow mode, or like select comments will be specifically timed out, deleted, banned, etc. And that makes me feel so much more welcome, because like I know that I just don't even have to, it's just another thing that I don't have to think about or have to worry about when I'm hosting an event.
Yeah, I get that completely, especially as you're reading through the comments trying to shout some out, and you have to like scan them very quickly, being like, nope, can't read that one, nope, can't read that next one. Okay, let's keep going through. And how long am I going to be quiet for until I find a message that I can read out that's actually positive? So yeah, I mean, I think the moderation definitely has helped recently. But if we move on to Nekkra as well, what do you think? Do you think your gender has made it difficult to start in this industry? Or
I can remember actually, so like before I went into the gaming industry, I wanted to be a professor. So I wanted to go into academia, and I was in STEM. And of course, as a lot of you might know, STEM is a very male-dominated field as well, but they're trying to get more women involved, and it's a slow but sure process. It's happening, and that's so exciting to see. I remember when I got my very first big fellowship. It was with NOAA. It was the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the United States. And I was floored. I was like, there's no way that the government wants me to work for them. Like, what is this? This is crazy. And I got there. I was super excited. And then about a week later, we all started getting a little chummy, and we all started to kind of talk to each other a little bit more and a little bit more candidly. And it came out that a lot of the people that I was on that fellowship with thought I only got it because I was a woman.
Wow, yeah.
I was the youngest in the group. I was the only one that was still in college proper in undergrad. Everyone else was either in grad school or going to be transitioning into grad school for that summer. And so, I thought it was about my ability. But no, a lot of other people that I was on that fellowship with really thought it was just because I was a woman, and they wanted to up their numbers if I was a part of a percentage. And so that thought has always stuck with me throughout some of these moments where I'll get a big gig, or I'll be offered something that I think is really exciting and really awesome. It always kind of comes back to that a little bit. Am I getting picked because I'm a woman, or am I getting picked because I'm the right person for the job? And I want to go to a comment that was in chat, because Amy, I feel like you really hit it on the head there, that sometimes it really is hard not to gaslight yourself into believing it's you and not just like a sexism or misogyny thing. So yeah, I don't want to be like a huge downer on the discussion. I think that being a woman has helped me in a lot of ways, but being a woman has also hurt me myself in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally understandable. I think a lot of people feel that, especially after, you know, some of the controversies that have happened, such as in Overwatch, there was a call that, you know, female players were getting hired over male players. And someone, to prove this, posed as a female player and instantly got picked up by a team, and then came out at the fact that they were male. And since then, there's been very little female movement in the players. And that's
just
only...
quick question. That was a male that hired them, a male that made that decision, like a male that ran that team.
Yeah,
right?
Most
women
likely.
are ruining everything.
But, you know, of course, now the onus is on the fact that, you know, female players now are not going to be hired because of controversy such as this. You know, so it kind of ruined it for everyone, really, unfortunately. Yeah. So, you know, it does definitely have ups and downs. But Rachel, do you have anything to add in regards to gender and being part of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, it has been like over the last decade, like how women have been viewed in esports has changed a lot. I mean, I remember I applied to be a frag doll when the frag dolls were coming out. They were taking like cute photo shoots and like doll houses and stuff like that. And a lot of the misrepresentation of women in this industry, I feel like over the years up until this point, has been because they had to come into this industry through a male lens. You know, gaming, I saw a lot of people in chat, they're like, wow, girls played games growing up. Like, I don't know at what point the idea became that this was a male dominated industry. I don't know when the boys took control. Adam Conover from Adam Ruins Everything has a great theory that it's when Nintendo decided to put their consoles in the boys section instead of the general section of Toys R Us. But however we got here, it has been an interesting journey, right? When I first got involved in video games, I am a conventionally attractive white woman who speaks English, and I was like, okay, this is a tool that I have here, and people are going to look at me a certain way because of it. How do I use it for the best case scenario? You know, how do I use people's bad conceptions and people's good conceptions? How do I use the way people are going to see me that has literally nothing to do with who I am as a tool? And so over the years, like, I certainly have been in situations where people have hired me because, hey, you're a cute girl. And, you know, I know this because I'm standing next to, you know, somebody on stage who I have 5 years of experience at this point. I know the game, I know that. And they also hired this girl from a casting call who doesn't know the 3 races of StarCraft. And that's fine. And that's like, I saw my goal as, let me make this a welcoming space for her because she has done nothing wrong. She answered a job call and somebody told her that she was capable of doing that job, and she has no reason to mistrust that person. So this is not the woman's fault or, you know, the different person's fault for being hired. This is not, you know, a problem I have with the people around me. The problem is with the decision makers. And so over the years, over the last decade, a lot of what I've been trying to do behind the scenes is when I get the opportunity to be in this room, that I have these discussions with people, that I say like, hey, you hired me. What did you hire me for? Why did you reach out for? Did you know that there's actually like this wonderful Black woman who does what I do too? So next time you need a host, maybe check her out too. Or did you know that there's actually like a big group of people that you could reach from? You know, thank goodness I have this wonderful agency now, and we have such a big group of talent that I can point to and say like, have you considered diversity? Have you considered, you know, expanding your worldview a little bit? And so I think, you know, Nekkra, I'm so excited to hear that when you came into this industry a couple of years ago, that you feel like things aren't as bad as everyone is asking you if they are. You know, are you experiencing horrible things? You're like, maybe not so much. I hope that is at least in part to the fact that women like Jess and I have been going into green rooms and being like, hey, there's a lot of bullshit in here. Let's reduce it by 10%.
Yes.
It's definitely like, it's something that is continuing to change, and it is because the people within esports want to see the change. There's a lot of voices. There's a lot of, viewers in chat who are just, I want this, I want that, girl, be like this, show boobs, blah, blah, blah. Like, that is a data point. That is obnoxious. That is, to Jess's point about moderation, a huge factor in who stays once they get in this industry and how much they can handle. And so as we strive for diversity, as we strive for bringing more women, more non-binary people, just diversity across the board, moderation is definitely something that we have to consider, because it's not only about inviting people in, it's about making people feel welcome. And that is a constant evolution in our industry. I was rambling more than anyone else, so now I take that cake. Sorry.
Great. That was great.
Really great.
So what can we do to make it easier for the next generation, or for more women going forward, to, make it easier, not only getting into the gaming industry, but also easing their fears that they are only hired for their gender? If we jump to Nekkra to start for this one.
I feel like we just got to kind of continue as things have been. I feel like we're seeing the change over time. And as Rachel pointed out, because of people like Rachel and Jess, who are so ready and so eager to point out the things that are wrong, I've had a much easier time getting into this industry. And it's really nice to see a lot of other people in chat that are trying to get into the gaming industry too say like, hey, I'm a female caster, and I definitely feel like I'm a part of a team that I'm respected, that I can do my job really well. And that makes me so excited to see, because I feel very similarly. Even though I did say before, like, yeah, sometimes I do in my own mental kind of come back to, well, am I getting hired because I'm a woman or because I'm good at my job? 9 times out of 10, I fall on the coin that I'm damn good at my job, and that's why I'm getting hired over everyone else. And so, you kind of have to think about like the small victories there a little bit. But I think it is really important that like we stick together and we continue to pave the way for other generations behind us to continue to move forward. And a lot of that comes down to making it more welcoming, because there's a part of the conversation that's about, okay, the question's always about how do we get more women involved? It's not the answer that you're looking for. It's all about how do you make women more comfortable? I think that's really where it comes down to, not we just need more women. It's make them comfortable enough that they feel confident enough to step a foot in the industry and give it a shot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel if perhaps the rumors and the stories of misogyny weren't so, everyone's got one of those, right? If not every woman had a tale of misogyny in the gaming industry, then maybe more women would be in the gaming industry. That's a great point, Nekkra. If we move on to Rachel next, how do you feel that we can make it easier for other women going forward?
Well, I can reference what made it easier for me, which was having incredible role models and people that, at least felt like they could make a welcoming environment for me and for some other people. And so that's a responsibility that I feel now too, where I now am charged with making this a welcoming environment. I am now charged with making sure other people have a good time. And so it's been kind of a multi-pronged approach where, I have, women who feel comfortable reaching out to me directly that I'd love to talk to. I'm involved in some mentorship programs. And then there's the greater scale stuff that I can do where through my agency, I feel exceptionally empowered to demand situations that are egalitarian, that are fair, that are safe for everyone. I feel comfortable in, after 10 years and not to say that I have status, but that I feel comfortable with myself to say like, I actually won't participate on this panel because this is a panel of 19 blonde white women. Like I won't participate on this panel because you have a person on this panel who, ran his mouth against women and was actually a general douche. So I'm not going to speak next to him or promote his stuff. It's not the fast way to do things. It's not, if it were just me doing this, I don't think we'd have a lot of progress, but I do think across the board, my amazing women peers also are feeling comfortable and empowered to stand up for these things. And it's one hand you're stopping the bullshit, and the other hand you're kind of pulling up the people that have traditionally been left out. And so that's really what I hope to do. I hope I'm successful at it. And I really feel empowered, with my group around me, that they're also doing that too. So.
Mm-hmm. And Jess, what do you think that we can do just to help more people into the industry, or just to make it a bit more welcoming and inclusive as a whole?
I really love what Rachel said about, like, I know she didn't use the word calling out, but like, she gave the example of, oh, this person has maybe had some misogynistic actions in the past, so I don't feel comfortable working with them. And over the course of the 10 years that I've been involved in gaming, at first, part of it was, I was coming up in my career and the game industry was a lot different, but in the past, I would not have called stuff like that out. And it would have been for fear of maybe losing a job. It would have been for fear of, being seen as like, oh, she's going to get that one's all uppity about feminism. And because I've literally heard people say, oh, we don't want to work with her, she's too feminist. Like, I've literally heard people say that in the game industry. She's going to she's going to find a problem with everything. She's going to get offended at everything because she's too much of a feminist. So we can't work with her.
Oh my goodness.
And so the fact that, like, I had that same, I literally, having heard that for a while, I was like, oh no, I can't cause any waves. I gotta, if I see something that's not right, doesn't matter. You just roll with it, or you don't get that job, kind of thing. And now I'm so glad that I feel so much more comfortable calling those people out, or those instances out, and the game industry and esports really is kind of a small industry, and that word gets around. And I've had, situations where there might be maybe a person who women don't feel comfortable working with. And I have urged them to, say something if that's the case. I would say something, maybe I'll speak up on their behalf. I've been in situations where I would have had to work with someone that I've been like, I'm not going to be a part of this event actually, because this other person is involved. And that is a decision that I feel comfortable with, because I think that, I think a lot of people are going to kind of muddle the waters and call this cancel culture. And I'm not trying to cancel anyone, but what it is it's me not feeling comfortable working with that person. So I'm not trying to cancel that person necessarily. I'm trying to remove myself from the situation. And if enough companies keep seeing the same people being avoided, well, they're probably going to finally put the pieces together and go, oh, all these women were made to feel uncomfortable by this one person. So instead of just not working with those women, maybe we don't work with that one person. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is definitely the way forward, the way to show, the way that we tell players, to vote with their money in regards to gaming. With us, it means we have to vote with who we're working with and such, and spread the message that way, rather than necessarily, going on Twitter and being like, this person's a terrible person, don't work with them, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
But I mean, whichever way works, really, to be honest. And so just before we go much further, of course, we will be having a Q&A session in the Discord afterwards. But if you guys in the chat could get some questions ready for our lovely panelists and put them in the Q&A section, I'll go through which ones are most highly voted. So give a thumbs up to ones that you really want to see answered, and we'll go through those just after the next question. So my last question, I guess, from me this evening to you guys, is kind of going off what we just said, sort of, did it make it different? Was it difficult? How can we make it easier going forward? But how can we be more inclusive in esports events as a whole? What is it that we can do, not only, to get more women into the industry, to make women feel more comfortable, but, other people as well, members of the LGBTQIA community, members of the trans community, members of any minority community that needs help getting into the industry. What do you feel we can do to make this a better industry for them as well? If we start with Jess first.
Yeah, so I think like conferences and series and panels like this are a great idea, great place to start. I know eFuse in particular does their Women of the Arena series, not to plug too much, but they've been bringing me on board to host and cast that series. And it's just an example of a fantastic women inclusive event that really makes, it's a cool event because it specifically highlights women. It's not to exclude anyone, it's to include women, to help bring women together and forge these new connections. Because one thing that's also, I think, really important for making women feel comfortable in a space is like having a community behind them that sort of has their back. Because, I know the idea of gaslighting and such has been brought up, and you kind of gaslight yourself into thinking that it's something you did wrong rather than the result of feminism, of misogyny and such. So it's really easy for someone to do something to you, like say, oh, you only got hired because you're a woman. And it's so easy for you to then internalize it and think, oh my gosh, are they right? Versus if you have a whole community behind you and you can go to that community and say, oh my gosh, this thing happened today. A guy said, I only got hired because I'm a woman. Then you have the entire community all saying, oh yeah, that happened to me yesterday. That happened to me the day before. People have said that to me, and they can reassure you that it's, it's not you, it's them. Like, you're doing a great job. You were not just hired, because of your gender. So, community, I think is a really big one. And then also, like I was saying before, like moderation, the fact that, the answer should not be, oh, get a thicker skin because people are going to say whatever they want to say. It's the internet. I think it should be, hey, people of the internet, like, be better. If you disagree with what someone's saying, fine, you're entitled to your opinion, but I don't think you need to insult someone for any reason. I just don't think that's the thing that needs to be done. I don't think you need to insult anyone for their appearance, their gender identity, the way they present, for any of that. So I think moderation is because not only does it, it's not, I don't think you're not hiding in a bubble and shielding yourself from seeing these ideas or whatever. But to me, when I work with a company that does have heavy moderation on the chat, to me, it says that, like, this company has my same values at heart. And this company is a company that I want to work with more. And, the more companies that kind of join this cause and do women-centric events, the more other companies will take note and see how great they are and what a good thing they are. And I think the ripple effect will kind of spread. So yeah, I mean, keep doing what you're doing, women in games. That's a great, you guys are doing great.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that's why I created my community to begin with, was just to have somewhere for us all to be, almost, and for us all to, complain, or not have a reason to complain as well. We could all just play Overwatch with each other, not have to go on voice chat with random people who are just going to cuss us out for, our voice, and then, have a great time. But I feel that has also removed me from the misogyny that is online, and now I feel like I don't know at what level it is anymore, because I don't go in voice chat. I don't talk to randoms on the internet because I've had my fill of it, really. I'm like, no, I'm done doing that. I've had enough, having that backlash. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm only going to talk to people I know. So now I feel almost out of touch with how bad it can be. But Rachel, we'll move on to you next. How do you think we can be more inclusive for everyone?
Well, I think, kind of like you talked about in your own community, Kat, where you want to build a standard operating procedure that everyone in that community follows, which is, be kind and be respectful. Hoping that kind of bleeds out into the greater communities as these individual communities grow to represent larger and larger parts of the gaming community. One of the fastest ways I think that can happen is also, it goes hand in hand with being a visible person in the space. It's really interesting that we have social media now, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, where we can share our opinions on broadcast and then later off broadcast. I think it's really important and powerful for people who have that kind of visibility in our space to be advocates for positivity, to be advocates for inclusion and diversity. It really disappoints me sometimes when I see big figureheads in the esports space get behind an insult or an exclusionary idea, or tweet something out that they think is a vague statement, but really if that statement applies to you, it hurts you. The subtweeting, whatever it is. I think if you are a figurehead in this industry, I have no authority to say be better, but I strongly encourage everyone I have the opportunity to interact with to say that kids are watching you, people are watching you, and esports fans are learning how to interact in this space from the people that they see in the space, from the biggest figures, from the, the most followed people. Yeah. That's why I've been so grateful. And I attribute a lot of the change in the gaming community at large to the popularity of streamers like Dr. Lupo, who is just like a kind, positive, person who is also aggressively down to defend what is right and what is fair. And I think big personalities like that are changing, our space by leaps and strides. I think that moderation in communities, one of the things I noticed on a YouTube channel way back in the day when I ran Cybersports Network, putting up interviews, we get comments in there. If I went through and I deleted all the shitty comments, the next group of comments that would come back would have fewer shitty comments, and I delete those, and then we get fewer. You're curating your community. You're showing what kind of conversation is inclusive and welcome and is something that others in the community will participate with, and you're removing the rest. And so I think as we can go forward and, do that in our space, we will slowly mow the lawn of all the weeds. And maybe the weeds are unhappy about that, but I don't know. I think they might like a nice lawn at the end of the day.
What a great quote to take away from this. And we'll just move very quickly on to Nekkra. Just what do you think that we can do to increase diversity, to help those people who are in those minorities feel more comfortable in this space?
So I definitely got to piggyback off of the moderation point, just because it has made me feel so much more comfortable working on shows, working with companies that do have heavy moderation, because it does curate that conversation, like Rachel was saying, in terms of just showing people what's okay to say and what's really not okay. I think it gives a lot more people a kind of like that feeling of responsibility that they need to do the right thing, or they need to say the right thing in order to actually be involved in that community. So I think that moderation can be a really heavy tool to be able to use in order to really shape the things that you want to see. The other thing that I think is really important is something that I actually really do try to do with my own casting, and that's using they, them pronouns. I actually think that that's super, super important to default to that. If you don't know what pronouns a player or a person that you are casting or you're talking to really does prefer to use, because they, them, it's neutral. And I would hate to be a person that would accidentally misgender someone, because I think that is another way that you can really make people feel more comfortable in the space.
And y'all's the best.
Y'all is the best.
Using the word folks instead of like guys, like you guys, you folks, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure as a British woman I can pull off y'all, but give it.
It's beautiful from your mouth. That was
Try it out. It sounded
excellent.
Right, so we've just got a couple of questions. We'll answer as many as we can before the end, but any we don't answer, we of course will answer in the Women in Games Discord after the session. So make sure you join. There's a Discord link that has been posted in the chat recently. But just to start at the top, so what is your proudest achievement in your career so far? Nekkra, if we start with you.
Oh, one of my proudest moments was actually getting a chance to cast this cute little 7-year-old girl, Simone Lim, who won the Oceania International Championships for her age group. And it was just one of those moments that, like, I was so excited when the clip went viral, because it was all about her. It was all about her incredible 50-50 decision making in that moment to be able to win the Oceania International Championships. And I just couldn't have been happier to be a part of that experience.
Fantastic. And if we move on to Rachel next.
Man, I'm sitting here trying to like process like insane moments of pride. And I would have to say, I mean, for me personally, oh gosh, wow, when Pokemon Go reached out to me and had me do literally anything, because it's my favorite game in the world. Nekkra and I love Pokemon. I don't know. But no, the pinnacle of like achievement pride. So I've been part of Character Select, nay CSA, nay CSN, Cybersports Network, for a long time now. And it started out with my boss, Andrew, and me getting a camera and a microphone and going to pro gaming events and interviewing players, and then running tournaments, and then traveling to Korea and doing that. And then like, we picked up a couple other talent along the way who needed help, like I needed help. And this has snowballed into the biggest agency in esports. We represent the biggest talent. I mean, we've got Jess, we got Nekkra, but we've got like anyone that you've seen on a major esports stage, Golden Boy Puckett, like our agency takes care of these people. And the agency has become this sort of way that I can exert some control in the esports space too, because we pick up people that are respectful and positive and that align with our values. And then we celebrate them and we promote them. And so it has become this incredible tool, I think, for spreading goodness in the industry. And at the same time, supporting so many people that I love and giving them those assurances at the end of the day that, you did great. Don't listen to the haters. Here's some useful feedback. Here's some positivity. I really am proud of the space we made with Character Select.
Fantastic. And so the next question from Jasmine here. A lot of tournament organizers, events, etc. want people who have experience in hosting. How do you break this barrier of needing experience to gain experience? And how do you grow more from volunteering events to host and go further? If we start off with Jess this time.
That's a great question, because it does seem kind of like a catch-22, right? Like, you're not going to get hired unless a client knows what you can do, unless they've seen you host before. But then how are you going to get that experience if you can't get hired? So what I always recommend is like producing your own content. You can start small. I started small back on YouTube in like 2011, and I just had like, it wasn't, not a great setup, but I taught myself the basics of video editing, how to set up a little production studio, started hosting my own videos, and then I just kind of networked a ton, and my videos led me to, getting in front of the right eyes who would hire me for smaller little things and bigger, and then you work your way up from there. So basically you do it yourself. There's also like a thriving collegiate esports scene now in many places, and that's a really good place to start. Like if you, for instance, don't have the resources to even get like a relatively inexpensive camera, if you can't even start there, go link up with a maybe a collegiate esports club that probably has university owned equipment. They probably have, already, like, you can probably hook up with them and even just be like, hey, can we shoot some content for a couple hours? I'd like to do an interview, or I'd like to use your studio space. Just, do it yourself.
Fantastic. And Rachel, if we move on to you next, what advice do you have for breaking into the industry with little or no experience?
I'll say exactly what Jess said, which is if you have any way to get your hands on some equipment, start doing it from home. Jess runs this awesome podcast where she interviews other gamers in the space and gets their history. And that kind of experience, if you're just starting out, running an interview podcast is the best way to have an excuse to reach out to people and build your network, and to get that experience of interviewing them, recording it, watching your videos after you record them. You have to watch yourself. You have to watch yourself and edit yourself and decide not to do these things. Like, I'm going to watch this thing afterwards and be like, too much hands, Rachel. And then the third step is taking the initiative, reaching out. I have a document that I share at the Twitch hosting workshops where we actually teach people how to, kind of conduct themselves in the industry, get jobs like this, and go through your Twitter bio, make sure everything's neat. Have a contact email in your bio that you check and you answer, and then reach out to people and say, here is the content that I've done, or here is a reel of all the content that I've done clipped together in like a minute and a half. This is what I'm capable of, because that initiative is also hugely impressive to managers like we have, or to tournament organizers. They want to see that you're going to show up, that if they tell you that 9 a.m. is the call time, that you're going to be there at 8:59 and they don't have to chase you around, and that you're going to be like, what do I have to do? Because just being there and being ready it's huge.
Yeah. Nekkra, what do you think? Do you have any other tips to add on how to break into this industry?
Oh, well, I feel like the collegiate one that Jess mentioned is just like such a great tool to be able to use, because I remember my very first Pokemon event for commentary was like, I didn't even realize it was esports at this point, but it was actually like 6 years ago. I was just like called up and I decided, hey, do you want to get a hop on the stream real fast? And I was like, okay, sure. I don't know what I'm doing, but this will be fun. And then I realized that around 2018, when I actually started to think about doing this professionally and getting into this as like a real job, that I wanted to do more Pokemon content again. So I decided that I was going to reach out to Rutgers. I noticed that they were doing a bunch of premier challenges around there. And I said, well, this would be a really fantastic opportunity. Hey, I am a caster. I don't have too much experience, but I would be real honored if you would give me a shot and just let me hop on the mic for just a couple of games and just try to test the waters out. They were really, really kind to me. They were looking for people, and you'll be super surprised at the number of colleges or the number of esports tournaments that are just looking for somebody to just fill that space or fill that role. So you can get valuable experience from reaching out and cold calling like that and saying, introducing yourself and saying, hey, this is my reel, this is my stuff. Or if you don't have that, just introduce yourself and say, I don't have that much experience. Be honest and be yourself. And I think that's one of the best ways to get into the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think taking all of that on board will help. But I think as well, just one thing I would like to add as well is looking at spaces in the industry that can help as well. Things like Hitmarker do offer a really good service. They do CV reviews. They help you with the jobs you want to apply for. I have worked with them in the past. And I think that, the fact that all of the esports jobs are there in one place makes it really easy to just go through and apply.
Yeah.
And just have a look as well at what is out there. What kind of roles is it that I can apply for in this space, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all the time that we have to answer questions here, but we will keep your questions, and if you have, and the ones that we haven't answered, we'll answer in Discord afterwards. I'm just going to hand back to David now, but thank you three for joining me today. It's been lovely to get to know you, and I'll speak to all of you hopefully in the Discord in about 2 to 3 minutes.
Thanks very much, Emma. So thanks, Rachel, Jess, Nekkra. That was amazing.